las galletas buenas, hasta algo de verduritas para tener un poco más de energía, con el clásico picante mexicano. Vamos a continuar con el tercer y último panel de la sesión de trabajo de esta tarde. La gestión de calidad y su relación con la modernización, transparencia y confianza ciudadana. Este es el nombre de nuestro tercer panel en el marco de este encuentro interamericano sobre gestión de calidad de autoridades electorales. Me voy a servir presentar a nuestros panelistas, quienes expondrán cada uno sus temas. Nos acompaña esta tarde el doctor Víctor Aurelio Zúñiga González, comisionado primer vocal de la Comisión Estatal Electoral Nuevo León, a quien le damos la más cordial bienvenida. Doctor, bienvenido. Gracias, doctor Zúñiga, por estar con nosotros. Agradecemos también la presencia de la señora Margarita Herreros Martínez, ministra del Tribunal Calificador de Elecciones de Chile. Muchas gracias, bienvenida por estar aquí, muchísimas gracias. Queremos también agradecer la presencia de Gladys Roxana Villarreal Mancilla, directora general de Planeamiento, Innovación y Desarrollo del Jurado Nacional de Elecciones de Perú. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos, bienvenida. Y esta tarde también queremos agradecer mucho la presencia de María Teresa Melencaf, coordinadora de la Unidad de Cooperación Técnica del Departamento de Cooperación y Observación Electoral de la Organización de los Estados Americanos. Bienvenida, gracias por acompañarnos. Señoras y señores, la mecánica va a ser la misma, cada uno de los expositores dará su tema y al final, al concluir cada uno de ellos, tendremos la oportunidad de hacer la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Le cedo el micrófono al doctor Víctor Zúñiga. Adelante.
Muchas gracias, muy honrado por esta invitación y muy honrado de estar compartiendo. Sí, ahora sí. Pues les decía que estaba muy honrado de estar en compañía de personas tan importantes y prestigiadas de distintos países de América Latina y muy honrado de estar participando en esta reunión con ustedes. Yo quisiera, antes de dar lectura a la presentación que preparé para esta mesa, hacer tres pequeñas reflexiones que provienen de los intercambios que hemos tenido desde la mañana y todas relacionadas con pues la experiencia local que tenemos en el estado de Nuevo León y que permiten probablemente alguna de ustedes tomar alguna idea útil, como nosotros estamos tomando ideas útiles de sus participaciones. El primer punto, antes de dar lectura, es que este proceso que hemos experimentado en la Comisión Estatal Electoral ha sido un proceso largo y quizás estamos dando un poco la impresión de que lo decidimos una mañana, estoy haciendo un poco una broma, y en la tarde estaba resuelto. Es muy importante tomar en cuenta que la institución, antes de decidirse a correr el riesgo de ser certificada por un organismo internacionalmente reconocido y externo, mucho antes que eso, y que además ese organismo sea idóneo y reconocido por las instituciones mexicanas como un organismo internacionalmente reconocido e idóneo para certificar este tipo de procesos. La institución vivió dolorosos procesos de ajuste, de racionalización, de identificación de los procesos críticos, de autoestudio y también pues de mucha humildad al reconocer los errores. Y esto toma pues 5, 4 años y después viene otro proceso ya conducido por órganos externos que se lleva 2, 3 años. De suerte pues que esta es la primera de las cosas a decir. para no dar la impresión de que yo me quiero certificar y me certifico. La segunda es que en relación a esta discusión sobre la calidad que es en respecto a los procesos electorales específicamente, y no a las paletas o a los automóviles. Nosotros, lo verán ustedes con mayor detalle mañana en la exposición que hará Javier Arturo, el director de planeación. Nosotros partimos de que el mínimo minimorum de calidad es el respeto irrestricto al marco jurídico que nos gobierna. Ese es el mínimo, y es cumplirlo. Y de ahí para arriba va mejorando en calidad. Ese para arriba no son definiciones abstractas de democracia o una mirada a la ciudad griega, perdónenme por la ironía, es las expectativas de los electores, de los ciudadanos, respecto de estos procesos. Y entonces esto lo hemos venido monitoreando sistemáticamente. ¿Qué esperan los ciudadanos de nosotros, las autoridades electorales del Estado de Nuevo León? Y por último, les dije que eran tres. Algunos de nosotros, y yo creo que todos los que somos comisionados electorales, estamos al menos dispuestos a ser más exigentes con nosotros mismos. Y quisiéramos probablemente ahora someternos no solamente a la certificación de cada uno de los procesos, sino que además a la calificación de los electores. ¿En qué medida los electores están satisfechos con el servicio electoral que nosotros les proporcionamos? Y la calificación del elector, que es una calificación de cliente, a quien nosotros les prestamos un servicio ciudadano, con toda la connotación político-histórica que cada quien quiera ponerle, pero finalmente es un servicio que se le presta a un ciudadano que paga impuestos y que quiere que la organización electoral resulte como a él le parece. Y si la quiere amable, y la quiere festiva, y la quiere pacífica, y la quiere limpia, y etcétera, etcétera, pues así tenemos que hacerla y que nos califiquen en relación a esos atributos. Y esas son las tres cosas que iba a decir, que están fuera de mi presentación. Ahora voy a mi presentación más disciplinadamente. ¿Le pico dónde? Ahí está. Se intitula… ¿No jala, Javier? O el que no jala soy yo. Ahí está. Se intitula… ¿No se ve el título? ¿Sí se ve el título? Bueno, la gestión de calidad y la confianza ciudadana. A fin de introducir adecuadamente esta presentación, me tomo la libertad de detenerme unos minutos para reflexionar sobre uno de los términos del título de esta mesa, el relativo a la confianza. Como sabemos, este es uno de los elementos cruciales de todo proceso electoral y político, pero también, aunque parezca a primera vista extraño, es cada vez más esencial para la vida económica y social de cualquier comunidad local, nacional o global. La confianza es ese pegamento casi invisible de las relaciones sociales que hace que florezcan en forma rutinaria las mejores cosas que una colectividad puede ofrecerse a sí misma. No se trata, sin embargo, de la confianza en abstracto, sino de la confianza en interacciones sociales concretas, es decir, de la confianza en las escuelas, de la confianza en los bancos, de la confianza en la policía, en los gobernantes, en los medios de comunicación, en los prestadores de servicios, en los fabricantes, en transportistas, mensajeros, comerciantes, en los ministros religiosos. Para dar una rápida idea de la importancia que está adquiriendo el tema, me permito referirme solamente al catálogo más reciente de una de las editoriales más prestigiadas en ciencias sociales de los Estados Unidos, que es la Russell Sage Foundation. En el catálogo ustedes encontrarán los siguientes títulos que traducidos al español serían: 1. Confianza y gobernanza. 2. Confianza en la sociedad. 3. Confianza en las escuelas, el recurso fundamental para el logro de mejoras. 4. Confianza y honradez. 5. La desconfianza. Se lo recomiendo ese libro, ¿eh? 6. Confianza y desconfianza en las organizaciones. 7. Evolución y la capacidad de comprometerse. 8. Confianza y reciprocidad. Lecciones interdisciplinarias para la investigación experimental. 9. Confianza en la ley, motivando la cooperación del público con la policía y las cortes. 9. 10. Cooperación sin confianza. 11. Callejeros, 2 puntos. Cómo los taxistas establecen relaciones de confianza. 12. La democracia y la cultura del escepticismo. Confianza política en Argentina y México, cuyos autores son Matthew Cleary y Susan Stokes, y se lo recomiendo. La cultura del escepticismo en Argentina y en México. Y para finalizar estos botones de muestra, uno de los más recientes títulos de mayo de 2008, que es el 13º de la lista: Enseñar, ejecutar y la confianza, las funciones del servidor público. La centralidad de la confianza en la vida social, económica y política proviene del hecho de que este es el activo más valioso que tienen no solamente las marcas, los productos, los autoservicios, restaurantes y bancos, sino también las instituciones públicas, y en primerísimo lugar, sin duda, las instituciones responsables de organizar, dictaminar y dar cuentas de los procesos electorales. ¿Qué es la confianza? La confianza es una relación de sincronía en mutuas expectativas y obligaciones. Esto significa que los actores de una comunidad u organización, por grande o pequeña que sea, despliegan una reciprocidad mediante la cual cada personaje conoce sus obligaciones y las ejecuta, al tiempo que espera que los otros personajes las conozcan y las ejecuten. Asimismo, cada uno de los actores recibe lo que espera, ni más ni menos, de manera pues que los imprevistos, sobresaltos y desilusiones son reducidas a su mínima expresión. Y todo esto se lleva a cabo sin gastos de energías sociales mayores, a los que la ejecución de obligaciones y la respuesta a expectativas exigen. Esto significa que cada uno de los actos de reciprocidad y de mutuos entendimientos y compromisos se realiza sin exigencias, ni ruegos, ni reivindicaciones, ni expresiones de inconformidad, ni manifestaciones u otro tipo de controversias. La desconfianza es exactamente lo contrario, es la asincronía de expectativas y obligaciones. No requiere de mayor explicación, sin embargo, sí conviene añadir que es extremadamente costosa para una colectividad. La desconfianza instaura controles a cada paso de una relación social o institucional para verificar, auditar, comprobar, garantizar y otros muchos verbos que al final de cuentas significan controlar que el otro ejecute sus obligaciones y responda a las expectativas propias de su función. Cuando la desconfianza es generalizada en una sociedad, se da paso al escepticismo. Esto sin duda trae consigo costos incuantificables y un desperdicio imperdonable de recursos. Pero bueno, este es tema de otra presentación. Diversos autores reconocen diversos tipos de confianza. En primer lugar está lo que llaman la confianza orgánica. Esta es propia de pequeñas organizaciones de tipo familiar, religioso, deportivo, y depende fundamentalmente de las relaciones cara a cara y del tiempo de convivencia a lo largo del cual se van presentando las pruebas de que las expectativas se cumplen. En segundo lugar está la confianza contractual, propia de instituciones modernas. En este caso, las partes se comprometen públicamente a establecer relaciones de mutua reciprocidad y definen las sanciones por incumplimiento. así como las circunstancias que dan lugar a la ruptura de la relación contractual. En este caso, no solamente se incluyen las típicas relaciones contractuales, matrimonios, relaciones laborales, mercantiles, crediticias, sino también formas de contrato más complejas, como aquellas en las que un gobernante establece un contrato con la sociedad al jurar cumplir con sus obligaciones. Finalmente, la tercera forma de confianza es la relacional, mediante la cual los miembros de una organización o colectividad se ofrecen mutuamente bienes y servicios materiales o espirituales con la calidad esperada. Este último tipo es el que se observa en una institución educativa, o debe de observarse. Una en la que los maestros enseñan, los investigadores investigan, los estudiantes estudian, los directivos dirigen y el personal de apoyo apoya. Me río porque es como una cosa que no debería de decirse. Pero esta verdad de perogrullo, ustedes bien lo saben, no siempre sucede así. Se dan casos en los que los profesores seducen, los estudiantes sobornan, los directivos coartan, los investigadores hacen política y el personal de apoyo estorba. En suma, no cumplen con sus obligaciones y las expectativas se convierten en desilusiones. Confianza ciudadana y gestión de calidad. En los primeros meses de 2006, la Comisión Estatal Electoral de Nuevo León solicitó la realización de una encuesta a una muestra representativa y estratificada de ciudadanos del Estado de Nuevo León, con el objetivo de conocer qué esperaban los ciudadanos de las elecciones que tendrían lugar en julio de 2006. Las respuestas a las preguntas fueron contundentes. La primera de ellas fue: ¿cuáles son los aspectos más importantes para usted pensando en las próximas elecciones? Los encuestados respondieron que el más importante aspecto es que las casillas se abran puntualmente, que no se vean obligados a hacer mucho tiempo de fila, que los funcionarios de la casilla en la que van a votar estén debidamente capacitados, que su nombre aparezca en la lista nominal de electores y que las boletas para emitir el voto sean claras. A su vez, ante la pregunta ¿cuáles serían para usted los aspectos que darían una mala imagen o una imagen negativa en las elecciones?, 50% de los encuestados mencionó el fraude como el principal aspecto, respuesta que no sorprende a nadie. Sin embargo, 35% y 33% seleccionaron otras respuestas interesantes. Los primeros indicaron que la desorganización daría una mala imagen y los segundos que la desconfianza haría lo suyo.
Of trust would do a lot. And the combination of the results of these two questions take us directly to the topic of the administration of quality. The polls have to be open on time and have to be organized by an external organism, not have long lines to wait. The officials have to be well trained and the lists have to be well done, that the ballots have to be clear and for there to be good organization. So everything that has to do with the delivery of a service, electoral service with high quality, everything that is not achieved if we do not comply on time with all of the standards of quality of any organization that gives a service to the public. What did the citizens expect from the elections in Nuevo León? They expected a service of quality, and what is most important, this was linked with trust. However, as you all know, any organization that gives a service with high quality requires to have certain standards and certain quality, external quality standards. It's not enough to be convinced. It's also necessary to have certain logistics and certain technology that will guarantee that the service given to the public will have the characteristics that the citizen expects.
That all the polls open when said, and that 98%, at least 98% of the polls open at the set time, or that all the citizens and officials of a poll are duly trained And this constitutes enormous challenges for any organization responsible of staffing the elections, and a greater challenge to achieve an external organization to certify that the polls were open on time and that the officials were duly trained. These attributes of the electoral service were the expectations of the voters. If these expectations were not met, mistrust is abound, skepticism is confirmed, and transparency is doubtful. Let me complete. Everything leads to an epigraph that I read in a compilation published by the Federal Institute in Mexico City, under the title of Democracy and Transparency in 2005. It says that this was taken from a text by Aristotle, that cannot validate this. It says, we do not need a perfect government. We need one that is practical. Let's suppose that Aristotle wrote this. I'm not going to doubt it. I would answer, yes, he was right. An impractical government, meaning one that does not meet the minimum expectations of the governed parties, receives mistrust. So in conclusion, a quality service is the one that synchronizes expectations and obligations, and from there on generates trust. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Victor Zúñiga, for your participation. And now we will hear from Margarita Herreros Martinez, Minister of the Electoral Rating in Chile. Thank you. First of all, on behalf of the electoral authorities of my country, I would like to thank the CEE of Nuevo León and the OAS for the invitation to this seminar that is proving so useful. We are in Chile in a stage where Chile has not invested in quality control of their poll system, nor do we have any certification. Notwithstanding, we have our own control systems. But I would like to thank specifically this beautiful country, this beautiful host country that has received us with such friendliness. My intervention is exclusively about the quality control we have, the rating process of the election. This is my intervention. The system for rating elections in Chile is regulated by the organic law about popular vote and scrutiny. As I say, we do not have implemented a quality control system, an external quality control system, but we do have different methods of control structured in different stages, depending one from another, and in charge of different people, which are absolutely indispensable. So the task endeavored to the electoral authority, from where we have the official results, are the true reflectment of the will, and this will is coincident with the nomination of the elected authorities. These people are different, and from there on, the control we have. As I say, the qualification of the elections has different and successive stages that lead to the appointment of the elected authorities. The results constitute the conclusion of the voting process after the tallies, which imply counting the votes, posting the results, and the proclamation of the elected candidates. The tribunal in Chile is the organism charged with delivering the total and definite result of the elections and to proclaim the elected authorities, so that constitutionally this is the organ that should oversee the transparency, legality, and authenticity of the electoral actions and its results. The elections law contemplates a control mechanism of the veracity of the vote of the polls, comprised by a series of successive scrutiny performed by different instances in the electoral process. First of all, we have a public scrutiny done by the polling station itself. It is done directly and publicly. Then there's another count done by the scrutinization collegiate board, and then the general tally of the vote, which is done by the TCE, the tribunal in charge of the elections. However, there are other control mechanisms, such as proxies at the polling station that represent the interests of the independent candidates and the political parties that participate in the tally or scrutiny done by the polling station itself once the vote is completed. In Chile, the Secretary of the Interior has a competency to collect the vote of each polling station in order to issue, at the end of the period, the temporary results of the vote, providing partial reports to inform the community. 6 days after the election, the director of the Electoral Service must issue a report with the results gathered by the electoral collegiate boards, which this information has a partial and temporary nature. The elections law says that once the voting is closed in each table, the polling station in that same place must have a public tally of the votes in the presence of the public, the proxies, and the present candidates. And it is a fraud, any tally that is done at a different place than where the polling station was set. The law also describes in detail how the tally of the vote should be done. Like, for example, that the secretary of the polling station must open the schedules and the president should read them out loud. It also detailed the further obligations after the tally. The secretary should deliver to the delegate of the electoral meeting 2 copies of minutes signed by the members of the table, and a 3rd copy which will be posted in a visible place where the station was located. After tallying the votes at the same place where the balloting station was established, we present a report stating the number of votes in each candidate. This is in a closed envelope, signed envelope, will be delivered to the tallying collegiate board for a second count, and another copy should be mailed to the TCE for the general count. The second tally is done by the tallying collegiate body that has the purpose of gathering the documents of the tally at the polling stations and add the votes. These collegiate bodies meet the next day after the election or plebiscite, and is comprised by the presidents of the polling stations and with public notary. They should tally publicly the vote of a total of 200 polling stations. Another document is filed. The first copy is added to the Book of Deeds. The second is sent to the Director of the Electoral Service, and the third to the President of the TCE or Electoral Qualifying Tribunal. The definite results of the election are the product of the validation done by the TCE after revising all the votes issued in each of the approximately 33,000 voting stations in the country, and after solving any complaints about nullity against the elections by acts that have been maybe illegal, and the requests of a recount in those cases where there have been arithmetic errors. But the work of the TCE not only is constrained to tallying the votes. So in some cases, the tribunal must make pronouncements about the validity of the polls, considering it as a valid vote, a null vote, or a void vote, which will be part of the results. The election contemplates a procedure to follow for reviewing the vote. This is for the formation of the general tally by the TCE. Notwithstanding the electoral complaints, this procedure consists in the following. One, we have the documents from all the tallying collegiate bodies, and these contain the information of all the reports from the polling stations. The tribunal will practice the general tally based on these documents. Two, if there's information missing from some tallying collegiate body or of any deed from the polling station, the tribunal will require from the electoral service the delivery of all the deeds and missing documents until completing the general tally. Third, in case of altering any result in the deeds of the tallying collegiate body, or if any math operation was done erroneously, the tribunal will complete the information or will rectify the tally. 4, if the tribunal did not have the information by none of the foregoing instruments, it could request the electoral body, the corresponding electoral body, the delivery of an authorized copy from that polling station in the record that is in their possession. 5, if even then it is not possible to obtain the necessary information, the tribunal will publicly do the tally, requesting the ballot box from the electoral service. To perform this process of forming the general tally, inform the results, and proclaim the chosen candidates, the tribunal has implemented a system that contemplates 2 procedures. One is administrative, the other one is computational, both related and dependent among themselves. This procedure begins with emitting the vote at the polling station, in which the officers, once the vote finishes, should fill the forms of the deeds that contain the results of the station. Each deed must be introduced in an envelope that will be closed and signed by all the officials of the polling station. One of the envelopes should be sent to the president of the TCE, which is deposited in the company of the mail postal service in Chile, which is located in each polling station. The other envelope should be delivered the next day to the secretary of the respective collegiate tally station. The process of collecting the material is a complex one, since the tribunal needs all the electoral material within the 24 hours after following the election. So the information should come sorted according to the electoral precincts. For this, the tribunal designed a procedure with the purpose of sorting the electoral information of each polling station. So the Chilean post office delivers to the tribunal some bags that contain the deeds of the results of the polling stations that performed in a certain polling station. So we reduce the delivery of 100,000 elections to just 1,500 bags. With this procedure, we obtain an enormous economy of time in the classification and sorting out of the material. The closed bags have a registry with the barcodes that allows to have a complete statistic of the documents of the polling station that are still yet to be received. This material is sent to the TCE beginning 9 p.m. of the day of the election in cases of the votes emitted in the metro area. In the early hours of the next day of the election in the areas nearby the capital, and during the next day after the election in other cases. To provide the necessary information for rating the elections, the work is distributed in 4 statements. A, the Computation Department. It must provide the software and hardware necessary to implement what is called as the tallying system. This system allows the input, modification, coding, and elaborate the votes list recorded in the polling stations. From this department depends the issuance of the preliminary reports with the electoral results, which are delivered to the scribes for its study and further knowledge by the tribunal. After reviewing the information, the modifications and corrections are introduced, and they're included in the definite database that will contain the official results of the election. B, the Archive Department. It classifies and sorts the documents from the polling stations received by the tribunal in files specially provided. After this function, the officers focus on reviewing the information keyed in that reflects the results of the different polling stations. C, the Input Department. This is the department in charge of digitizing the content of the documents from the polling stations and from the collegiate scrutiny bodies. D, Internal Controllership Department. They check all the work material that will be delivered to the tribunal and to the scribes. They verify the coincidence, the matching of the data input by the Digitation Department and the content of the documents from the polling stations, as well the workbooks that will be delivered to the tribunal and to the scribes. E, Warehouse Department. It should store the boxes that contain the votes of each of the polling stations that were operating during the election, that in the case of being necessary are required from the electoral service. The system, the computational system implemented for doing the task endeavored to the rating, which translates into a computation system, contains 4 modules in which about 50 programs that allow to do all the necessary processes for the rating, whose structure is comprised by an input module where you key in the number of votes emitted on the table, the vote obtained by each of the candidates, the annulled votes, the votes that were not crossed, and the total of votes on the table. With this information, we generate error codes that inform about the existence of objected votes, errors in the tally of the table, and the lack of the table document because it hasn't been received. The software does not allow that the people who key in the data could alter them in any way. So if there is any error, it should be corrected in the next module, which is the Modification Module, whose function is to introduce the modifications necessary into the databases that contain the vote input by the Digitation Department and the changes ordered by the tribunal when rating the election. Only the IT head has access. The printing module generates all the listings required for qualifying an election. The calculation module is endeavored with validating all the arithmetic processes generated when rating an election. So it has instruments that inform when the data of the polling station are above those registered, or if the trend of an option is too distant from the median of the election, and if there's zero votes in any of the options. Next. Let me do a timeline of the collection of electoral information in a presidential election and the work of the TCE for complying with its constitutional mandate. First, on Sunday, the day of the election, since 10 p.m., the post office begins to deliver to the tribunal the documents from the metro region. At 10 p.m., the archive department of the tribunal begins to sort and store the different documents from the metro area. On Monday, the Digitation Department begins inputting the presidential election corresponding to the metro region. On Wednesday, the Digitation Department inputs the vote from the metro region corresponding to the deeds of the tallying collegiate bodies. The system compares the information contained in the polling station documents and the one collected by the tallying bodies. If there's any difference, this table gets an error code. Fifth, on Thursday, the Controllership Department does a thorough review of the workbooks that have been generated by the Computation Department, where there's a recount of the errors detected in the polling stations. Sixth, on Friday, the workbooks are delivered to the scribes. 7, on Monday after the election, the scribe informs about the errors detected on the polling station documents. The tribunal modifies the tally if necessary, leaving validation of this fact in a deed and with a respective note. 8, the workbook of the liaison scribe is delivered to the IT boss, who should do the changes ordered by the tribunal. 9th, a new book is generated with the final results of the rating, whose data will be used for proclamation of the candidates. On Saturday, after the election, the tribunal reviews that the agreements adopted relative to the modifications are reflected in the results ordered definitely. 11th, on Monday, after 15 days of the electoral process, the president of the tribunal, together with the secretary of the scribes, appear to notify the results of the rating of the election of president to the authorities set forth in the Constitution for this purpose. As in any process where a large amount of data are manipulated, there should be alert mechanisms or filters which indicate in different stages of the process if any of the parameters that we are working on has any distortion relative to what should be their ideal performance. This is what we call information monitoring. On the other hand, for auditing the rating process, we leave a trail of the figures obtained before the data manipulation, during and after the data processing. Only then you can compare the numerical effect of the rating and the accuracy of the results. Also important is the participation of people, different people, in each of the stages of the rating process. Finally, it is indispensable as a verification method of the information, the double registry of the data done by different personnel. As I said, all these measures provide an account of the different control methods structured in different stages, one on top of the other, in charge of different people, which are absolutely necessary so the task endeavored to the electoral authority from which the official results emanate are the true reflection of the sovereign will, and that this will is coincident with the nomination of electoral authority. The Electoral Rating Tribunal, TCE, is the organ that is best evaluated by political parties, media, citizens, and in general by the community. This is what I wanted to tell you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Margarita Herreros, Minister of the TCE in Chile. Now we will hear from Gladys Roxana Villarreal Mancilla, General Director of Planning, Innovation, and Development from the National Jury of Elections in Peru. Welcome, Roxana. Thank you for being here.
Thank you to the CEE of Nuevo León and to the Department for the Cooperation and Observation for the OEA, and to the representatives of the different areas. It is a challenge to assume the implementation of the system for the management of quality under the norm ISO 9001-2000. We have analyzed from the high directors, they made the decision to do this, and after that we named a commission, a special commission for quality, a committee for quality, and the direction, the national direction, the general national direction is in charge of the implementation of the norm or the regulation. This was one of the main questions that we had, which is what is it what we're going to do? We decided that we were going to take the registry of the management and the custody of the organizations, political organizations. But as you all know, the ISO norm is born, but is not left there on itself. It has to evolve and grow. Before, the ISO norm had a focus of like a documentation that made it very difficult in the sense of the implementing into an organization. But happily, this was changed, and it made it easier to do this work for all of the organizations and the people that work in them. At the end of this year, we have a new modification to this norm, and we are implementing it, and we have done already the pre-auditing for this. It has been excellent, and so on the 22nd and on the 23rd of June, the certifier SEG is going to certify us, and we hope we won't have any problems. There is a main topic with respect to this topic and of the implementation of the ISO 9001-2000. It is a technological advance. All of our implementation is based and is supported on the IT aspect. We have developed an intranet where all the personnel that is involved in this process for the norm will be able to access, and they will be able to have all of the information that corresponds for each process, as well as their own process, as well as all of the regulations and parameters that they have, as well as all of the indicators and results that are shown on a daily basis. What is the secret of the ISO norm? It is the continuous improvement, and so therefore we cannot develop a process if we do not have a certification, or the beginning is just the certification, and after the certification we continue with continuous improvement. Allow me to show you a CD or for this purpose. Elections since 2031 for governance and democracy. The Elections Committee and its commitment with quality. The National Electoral Committee, with a firm conviction that governance is based on the exercise of democracy and based on organized citizenship, develops its processes, maintenance, and custody of the registry of policies that are of national and regional and local scopes, based on the standards of quality of the ISO 9001-2000 gives us, and after that it will prove the compliance of the demands given by this ISO 9001-2000. Since 2 years ago, we have been implementing a management system for quality that will give the user maximum satisfaction and trust within a process of modernization and transparency. The key of working with quality is in executing the processes impeccably and knowing what are the elements that intervene and identify them, understand them, and have them under control. That is what the implementation of the Quality ISO 9001-2000 is all about, to have the process under controlled conditions. The norm ISO 9001 have to be based on processes. And so therefore a way of representing graphically this functionality is our process map, where we have the structures in three main types: processes for direction, key processes, and support processes. And it is within the key processes where we are able to describe the function that we have just described. The organization has to be managed by processes. We have to define them, identify them, establish the sequence and the interaction, and for that the direction has to have criteria and methods, making sure that the operation and control has to be efficient. This management by processes begins by identifying and defining the elements, and these elements have to be the requisite of the citizens and the political organizations. The key processes take the main functions that are executed by the JNE, giving us the functions of not only the elections, but also during the inscriptions or the registry, or giving us efficiency through tools of governance and democracy. Also, the functionality of education, civic education for schools as well as for citizens in general, to be able to create consciousness that is basic for the development and sustainability of the democratic life in the country. But it is in the entry of the political organizations where we have implemented the administration of quality by defining the sub-processes of inscription of organizations, as well as the maintenance and custody of the files of these political organizations. So that we are able to give services with enough quality, we have to previously define what are the requisites of the citizens and political organizations, legal as well as those that are implicit, and incorporate them in the service that we're going to give our citizens. And for that, communication is basic. The citizens that want to get together in an organization will receive all of the help that they need, and once they're ready, we will assign a date for their inscription or their registry. They return on the date set with all of their documentation, and in the orientation office, they will confirm the validity of the information, or they will tell them what is not consistent. For that, the use of technology is indispensable, and the programs for information designed for these means will comply and do what has to be done. They will have to review signatures that are, aside from that, they will review the CDs that have all of the information that has been delivered, and this way, with the signs and the documentation, will be phased and put into the digital computers. Once the information is reviewed, it will be sent to the political organization's registry, where they will verify all of the requisites to continue with the resolution of registry or not of the political organization. Once they chart these different elements is by doing the diagram of the process. They will be able to identify the person responsible, the head of the registry, and the objective of the process. And they will accept or deny and they will continue with the objectives of quality. And only with these indicators will we be able to measure the results of the process, to be able to do the improvements and changes that will reflect a successful system of quality. If a request is rejected, then they can appeal, and their file will be resolved by the elections committee, which will give the last word. The files of the political organizations are guarded with methods and tools that will protect them, as well as the provision of information that one of the requisites of the customer is to take care of them on time. The International ISO 9001-2000 gives us requisites that are basic for all of the organizations if they need to make sure that their processes are done with quality. And this implementation is what adds the efforts and leaves aside the lack of formality and lack of order through work methods that are systematic, orderly, and controlled. The JNE. Thank you very much. Thank you to Roxana for sharing this with us. Thank you. And now it would be time to give the mic to Maria Teresa Melenkov, Coordinator of the Unit of Cooperation, Technical Cooperation for the Department of Observations and Elections for the American Organizations. Thank you to all. It is for me a great honor to be here with you today and to be able to share the experience of what we do in OEA with respect to these topics. As you all know, one of the purposes, essential purposes that the organization has of the states is to promote and consolidate the democratic representation, democracy. It is a task that amongst all of us will do at long term. The democracy, we could say, that is in an evolutional stage, and it faces challenges that are very important. those that we need to answer very quickly, especially those that are linked to demands, citizen demands that are not satisfied. The OEA considers that the good functioning of democracy is linked to several factors, many of which have been mentioned by many of the speakers that have come before me. That we talk about trust, participation, transparency, giving accounts, the efficiency of administration, legitimacy, and credibility of the institutions. You might ask yourselves, as other people ask themselves, and other organizations ask themselves, why the OEA works in the topic of administration and equality. This is a question that they ask us very often. The administration of quality that are of great use in the private sector have begun to be incorporated very slowly in some public organisms where where they are used as tools to be able to achieve a transparent administration or management. It's evident that these are tools. However, we want them to use not only as a tool, but we want to understand them as a philosophy in the organization. There is an important difference between these two concepts, because a tool is normally used to solve a problem, as where a philosophy in an organizational philosophy is focused on our attention and the efficiency of the services that the state gives. Our organization is very interested in spreading this tool and this philosophy because we consider that the implementation of the administration quality systems can give us a result of reinvention of the relation that exists between the states and the citizens. In the same way, we consider that this implementation will answer to a new way of facing the modernization and structure of the state. A work strategy based on quality administration or management can improve the better practices for the state and the government, and this will be able to control the quality of the processes and procedures in the organization. It will have regular audits, so it will have a focus that is not personalized based on quality, and it will strengthen the capabilities, internal capabilities of the government agencies. How can we apply a quality management system in the electoral commission? I think that after everything we've heard, we just need to add a few more things. I would like to share that we can manage quality and to certify electoral areas as different, like the registry, like the civil registry, the fiscalization of the political parties, the regularization of the candidates, the purchase of electoral materials, the selection of the personnel that is going to be part of the group, the training programs, as well as the watchers program and training. A system of management, of quality management applied to the electoral system can cover areas such as the policies for the improvement of the workplace, and this is something that we're going to be looking tomorrow at the CEE of Nuevo León, the approval of the budget, the purchasing systems, the recruiting, as well as the fiscalization of the parties, the diffusion of the professionalization of the electorates, as well as following the indicators for the electoral process. There are several benefits of having a certification process system and of quality in the electoral organisms, because they have a direct impact on the transparency and on the accounts and modernization of the organism. With respect to the transparency and the giving of accounts, basically we are able to observe in the improvement of the processes and procedures inside of the organization, and by having better use of the information to be able to make better decisions and creating a better culture and to make the system more transparent when it faces the citizens. With a modernization, quality is in goods and services by taking into consideration the needs of satisfying our citizens. It reduces the level of improvisation, and it professionalizes the management of procedures and processes. It becomes an objective of continuous improvement that is constant. And the audits that are part of the certification process help us to show the will of the government to be evaluated by an external and international standard, and not only by a standard that is created inside of the institution itself. All of this creates higher levels of trust from behalf of the citizens when they know that the public institutions are under quality systems, because this guarantees the systemization of the processes that are linked to more transparency and openness. What is it that makes the OEA? What does the OEA do particularly? I'd like to mention what it is that we're doing in this field. In general terms, what we're giving is we're helping the states that are asking us for the administration and quality. And the cooperation that we offer is developed in several steps. And just to mention, I will summarize. We receive an official request on behalf of the government that is interested in initiating the process. And after that, together with technicians, we do a visit to the country to see what is the scope of that project. We design a profile of the project, a complete document. And after that, we give a budget, and it is submitted to the opinion of different areas to see what is the financing. We don't have our own resources in the OEA. However, we do look for financing from other donors. We also act as an executing organization for the projects, and we have the horizontal cooperation of other institutions that are experts in this field. We do the bidding for other companies and other consultants that are experts. We participate in these bidding processes, and we monitor and supervise the development of the activities that take place in the country where it's going to take place. And right now we're very proud that we're going to begin to collaborate with the Electoral Commission of Panama. We're very happy, and we've done the bidding, and next week we start with these tasks. And we hope that in a very short while we will be able to give our support to the government of Costa Rica. They also manifested their interest in starting this process. I now want to leave this now to the floor. If there are any questions at this time, or I can answer. And once again, I'd like to thank all of you for being here and listening.
Thank you very much, Maria Teresa Mellencamp, for her participation. And as she mentioned, this is the right time to start our Q&A session. Somebody's already raised a hand. Go ahead, Eduardo. Of course, congratulate the four presenters, especially Victor Zúñiga, my friend and colleague at the Commission, who focused his talk exactly. I point this out because the presenter from the U.S., as well as from Brazil, as Peru, as well as everyone who participated today, we spoke about trust. I think you touched a very important point. In the charts you presented, Victor, I believe maybe it would be convenient also to talk, if you have it somewhere there, an outcome of that same study done statewide. What does the community think, or what did the community think about all the players in the electoral process. What do they think about the institution? What do they think about the parties, the media, the candidates, the performance? Because for me, it was an extraordinary experience to know about this, because we had the opportunity to call each of the parties and tell them, the community thinks this about you. To the media, this is what they think of you. And if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, in the new study, I think we're about to get to the process and maybe have some contribution from the comments of the people. Every 3 years, the opinion of the people change a lot. You well know that in 2003, people didn't want electronic voting. In 2006, without having to ask anybody, they said it was very important to get into a study of electronic voting, and we kind of went in that direction. So if you could please maybe remind us a little bit of this, and you might contribute it, because what you mentioned is very important about trust. Thank you. Go ahead, Victor. Thanks. Let me justify why I didn't include this component. I didn't want to be seen as a self-proclaiming presentation, but self-proclamatory. But Eduardo Guerra is touching on a point that is consequential to the presentation I did. We are not only in quality management and believing that this might seem to impact trust. We're asking the community if they trust us, and asking the community what they expect from political parties, what do they expect from the media and other important players in the process. At the same time, in the results of those surveys, we inform each of the users, political parties, candidates, media, and thereon. And to respond to this mentioned by Eduardo Guerra, trust. Trust in the State Electoral Commission has been gradually going up percentage-wise. From, I'm talking by memory without opening the computer, along 10 years since it's gone from 42 to 52% to 66%, and the final data from 06 is 77% trust, which in a country like ours, like Mexico, characterized with a culture of skepticism, this is almost incredible. Miraculous to have 77% of citizens in this state who trust in the institution. Other institutions that I'm not going to mention have, they are way below we are, including some institutions that do not have to do nothing with politics. They're way low than we are. Another important thing regarding Eduardo's point is that they not only trust, but we ask, would you participate in anything relative to the elections? And 1/3 of citizens, these are representative samples, they say that they would accept something. So there's a sort of logical relation. If they trust and only 1% accepts participate, so then it's kind of a polite answer. If 1/3 would accept to participate, this means that they do trust. And finally, this is to celebrate 16% of the surveyed parties, that is about 16% of the voting roll in 06. One of each 6 has participated in something along their life, as maybe officers, as a watcher, as a tally, as a participant in the counting tables, in something they participated. This 16% has much more trust in the institution than those who do not know us directly. That the trust goes all the way to 98% of those who have seen the process personally. So everything is chained here favorably for the institution. We already, I have prayed to the Virgin, which is very miraculous. So the survey of 2008, we don't want this index to be harmed. Thank you. Let's hope we have lots of candles lit to the Virgin. We have another question somewhere? Go ahead, please. Okay. More than a question, this is a reflection about what we heard. I think this session has been, for many of us, a clarifying session about the road followed by sister entities in something that is not always seen as key for voting management, which is quality management. And this helps us take decisions and assess the path to follow. But from this final panel, I want to take a few concepts. When one manages a public entity, you need to take great care of being called arbitrary or cold. And I think I've been able to round out with these presentations, with the material we have, with the dialogue we can have, those of us here, the response that any public officer should have with unavoidable question from the user, which is what for? Why to implement a new procedure within the state in an area so sensitive as the electoral area? In this final panel, with what was said today, with this differentiation about safety and security and trust, as a subjective relation between manager and managed, between the public servant and the citizenship and political parties. I think the what for is that we can take an important step forward in generating trust and trust building, because these processes, beyond having many internal merits within the organization, they have the possibility to simply explain the complexity that is not always understood by the citizens in our voting processes. And in this explanation of the complexity, that's when trust is built. I think this itself justifies, besides all the intra-organizational advantages, besides from the governmental traceability, this provides visibility before the citizenship, and this also gives us the possibility to do analogies among different organizations in different frameworks, in different governmental typologies, but we all do the same processes, standardizing processes. This also allows us a more objective observation of what occurs in each country when we agree and when we concur to know a different experience. This completes my decision process in a series of decisions that we're about to do. There's demands in our country relative to the traceability and visibility of the internal processes. The National Electoral Commission, which is the guiding commission from the Secretary of the Interior, but the Chamber has incorporated quality management systems in an important portion of their activities. And I believe that upon returning and based upon this, I will request from the authority we have in our country Secretary of Public Management that has a program called the Citizen Charter of trust. We've been talking about this, but I had the political doubt. Now I'm certain, have the political certainty that I need to recommend my minister to authorize me to start the procedure for certifying quality, at least in 4 aspects of the Secretary of the Interior, which is the allocation of public funds to political parties, the allocation of media spaces for the campaigns, the procedure in logistical assistance to political parties and the social actors that is done concurrently by the Secretary of the Interior, and the release of preliminary results. If we can shed light in the way we manage these things, no matter how the audits can prove us right, one time after another, we'll be able to generate more trust, which is the support of democratic legitimacy in countries that have a formal democracy ensured, but we still every day have to re-legitimize voting management, as well as the political parties have to do this. So I would want to thank the opportunity to reaffirm my convictions on this regard, and also accept the challenge of horizontal cooperation, multilateral from the OAS, in what corresponds of those who've already traveled a long way, that also allow us to use concepts that come from the private sector, but which are analogous to public management. Thank you. Thank you very much for the participation. Anyone else who wants to comment or has any pressing need for a question, please, if you could raise your hand. Since we don't have any more questions, I will ask Mr. Eduardo Guerra, President of the State Electoral Commission, CEE, to please express our appreciation to the members of this third panel. No te veo mañana. Si no te veo, feliz año, que tengas buena vida. Pues es que no te veo, criatura. Te vi en el San Carlos, luego en el Ancira cuando los canadienses borrachos, y ahorita. Wow. Está padre, ¿no? Escanéalo y mándamelo. Qué bonito. Wow. Bueno que se lo den a Pepe. Sí. Yo lo voy a dar. Guárdaselo a Pepe. Well, let's hear it for all of these members of the panel. Thanking each and every one of them their participation. Ladies and gentlemen, this way we complete the work part, but we still have the fun part. Just today, we gotta work tomorrow with work, or we gotta continue the hard work tomorrow. But only the work is finished today. Now we have our playtime, okay, Eduardo? So this is playtime. We want to thank each and every one of you, all the people who are visiting us from the different countries. We want to thank you for your presence in our state, and we want to show you a little bit of our city, the city of Monterrey. This is why we invite each and every one of you to come with us to the Santa Lucia River Walk, to the Fundidora Park, which are symbols of Monterrey, and we are more than sure that you will love it. Afterwards, after this tour, you will be taken to the dinner party offered by the governor of the state in your honor, our visitors. You'll enjoy it, believe me. This is all. And here we have, let me see, I think we have buses to take you to the river walk, and if you want to take, it's worth it, really. It's worth it to know Monterey, what it has to offer touristically. You will have time to rest and then go to dinner. So we're going to ask you to, down the stairs, you will see people from the CEE guiding you to the buses that will take you to this river walk. Thank you, good evening, and bon appetit. Enjoy this evening in Monterey.